Carson Palmer, former NFL quarterback, of course, Heisman Trophy winner. His weekly appearance brought to you by Level Select CBD. How'd the Bengals lose this game?
Well, it was just a magnificent game for all of us fans, for the Cincinnati fans, to come in as an underdog and somebody that, people didn't really give a shot or give a chance to. They hung in there. They had the lead. This team is here to stay. They have a great offseason ahead of them with $60 million to spend in free agency. Some players they're probably going to retain, and they can make a big splash in this free agency. They've got to shore up that offensive line. There's a bunch of vets. There's a bunch of guys. Terran Armstead, the New Orleans Saints, is a great tackle. Brandon Scherf is a great guard of the Washington Commanders. There's a bunch of guys out there to go and get, and this is an opportunity to really build that. They have a 4 or 5 year window here. They got Joe Burrow's on a rookie deal. He's probably going to re-sign a massive contract in 2024. So they can attack free agency right now and shore up that offensive line, give him some help, give him some support, and still be prepared for his contract that's coming up in a couple years.
Okay, how much confidence do you have in the Bengals that they will do right by Joe Burrow?
Not a lot. I mean, I just look at history, and history says, they're happy with where they're at and they're going to sit pat. But again, the way things are structured right now with the salary cap and free agency, they can go and be super aggressive. Von Miller's a free agent. They could use another pass rusher, a third down specialist. Chandler Jones is out there, another veteran, great defensive end. They can go out and attack free agency, because what they can do with Joe's contract is they can sign him in 2024 to a long-term deal and backload a ton of the money so that they still have room in 2024 for the vets they can sign right now in 2022.
Well, I think it's tougher for the Bengals to try to come back than the Rams, because if I look at the two favorites, overall favorites, it'll be the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. So two AFC teams. Whereas the NFC, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, Tom Brady's out of there, and maybe that bodes well. Russell Wilson could be out of the NFC as well. That bodes well for the Rams coming back. Even though you got Odell Beckham with his injury and a free agent, Von Miller, free agent, you lose your offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell, who takes the Vikings job, but you still have Stafford at a bargain. He's, I think, $23 million. Cooper Kupp is, $16 million. So it seems like the Rams, they'll have to replace Whitworth. I think he's going to announce his retirement, but you still have Jalen Ramsey. I mean, you still have some impact players. But then you also have the Aaron Donald situation. Like, Rodney Harrison threw that out, and I went, wait a minute. This is a guy who's making $9 million a year. It felt like it was a little bit more of I think I need to be up around $18 to $20 million here, guys, or I just might retire. What do you make of what Donald said, to Rodney?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely positioning himself for a pay increase. He's the 5th or 6th highest paid defensive player in the league. There's no doubt he should be, if not the highest paid defensive player in all of the league, top 2, top 3. So we'll probably see that get fixed this offseason. But back to the AFC, I mean, the NFC is right. You're right. With all those vets out of the league, the NFC is right. But again, in the AFC, the Bengals beat the Chiefs twice.
Yeah.
So I know the Chiefs are a contender. I don't necessarily like how the Bengals match up with the Bills on paper. But I would have said the same thing about how the Bengals match up with the Chiefs on paper, and they beat them at home, and then they beat them at their home. So they've won on both sides, and I think the Bengals are going to be here to stay.
How painful was it for you to watch the ending last night?
I'm so happy for Stafford. It wasn't that painful.
Okay.
I really wanted to see a victory played in downtown Cincinnati. It would have been amazing. I think we will. I mean, Joe Burrow is that good. Jamar Chase is that good. If they can keep these guys together, figure out a way to re-sign T. Higgins, keep, Joe Mixon happy. They've got the big three with really a fourth in T. Higgins. So the infrastructure is there. They've got to address the offensive line. The defensive line, I mean, how stingy was that defensive line of the Bengals last night? It's like every time they handed the ball off to the Rams running back, he ran into a brick wall. So, I mean, the pieces are there. They've got the right formula. They've got the right guys. Again, they've got a rookie contract at quarterback that's playing with house money right there. When you're paying your starting quarterback, who's probably the best player on the field, a rookie minimum deal, that is playing with house money. So they've got the right infrastructure, the right pieces around it. They just got to attack this offseason.
Put us in Stafford's shoes of your receiver is going to be double teamed, that final drive with Cooper Kupp, but can you still throw somebody open when they're going to be double covered?
Obviously, you can. I mean, Cooper Kupp's, you think back to the greatest receivers in history, and you think of Larry Fitzgerald and Megatron and the size and the bulk or the speed of some of these guys. And it's like, you don't quite trust that Cooper Kupp is that good. But when you see Sean McVay hand him the ball as a running back on the play of the game on 4th and 1, and just know that he's got two guys he's got to beat and trust that he's going to beat them, the guy is that good. It's not flashy. It's not sexy. It doesn't blow you away like some of the stuff Jamar Chase does, some of the catches that Odell Beckham Jr. has made over his career. It's not that flash. He's just so consistent and so dominant that when the game's on the line, Stafford's been around long enough. He's been in those drives many a times. He knows that when you're down, whether it's the Super Bowl or a regular season game, you've got to get the ball in your best. You got to get it to your best player without a doubt, no matter what. Sometimes he may be triple covered. He can still find a way to get open. He was getting open against double coverage, and that's why he's so special.
Okay, you get down on the goal line and you see Eli Apple single covering Cooper Kupp. I mean, come on. I mean, that's how do you get to the point where you have single coverage on Cooper Kupp at the goal line?
Well, especially the way that the defensive front for the Bengals was stopping the run with 4-man pressures. I mean, their 4 defensive linemen owned the line of scrimmage. They owned the Rams' offensive line. So they didn't need to load the box and bring 9 guys into the box to stop the run. They were doing it with 4 guys all game. But again, since he can go after, Patrick Peterson's a free agent, Xavier Rhodes is a free agent. There's some guys, hopefully they get Trey Waynes back in the starting lineup and he can be the player that the Bengals anticipated him being when they gave him that contract. There's just a couple pieces away where you get Patrick Peterson out there on Cooper Kupp. That's a pretty good matchup. So there's a couple pieces away, and they just didn't need to leave Eli Apple one-on-one with the Triple Crown winner.
That turf at the stadium with what happened to Odell Beckham Jr., is that turf related or OBJ related?
It sure didn't look turf related. I mean, it's hard to say that right now, the day after the game. That's just one of those ACLs. I hope it's not torn. I hope it's just maybe a bone-on-bone collision that he felt in there. But it did not look like it was the turf. That turf's only a handful of years old. I'm sure it's holding up pretty good. That looked like, unfortunately, I've been there. That looked like a knee that was reconstructed surgically a couple of years ago and then maybe gave out. It happened to me. It happens pretty easily. And when it does happen, it's very rarely a collision or a traumatic injury where somebody is crashing into you. A lot of times when you see that, it's just a guy planting or running or jumping. And that looked to be what it was with OBJ yesterday.
Well, first of all, the pass was behind him a little bit, and he took his eye off the ball because it was almost as if he had caught it. Now he was looking to see, he was looking to get upfield quicker than he should have. And it just felt like it was just an awkward moment there.
Those are the ones. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, I'm knocking on wood. Unfortunately, those are the ones that typically are an ACL expiring, snapping, breaking, tearing, whatever it was. You hope, he's a free agent as well, I believe. So
yeah,
you hope it's not completely torn and he has to start over again and go through the whole rehab process. Hopefully it's a little bit of a tear and they can fix it or just clean it up and he'll be ready once training camp opens in August.
And it felt like he was on his way to, if they were winning, he was going to be in the MVP conversation last night. He just felt like he got that touchdown, had a couple of big plays there, and then all of a sudden had that injury. We've talked about Aaron Donald before and just how great he is. But, going up the middle against a quarterback, and a lot of quarterbacks have said on this show, they worry about the guy who's coming right at him, not necessarily the guy on the edge. What is it about Aaron Donald? You sort of know what you're getting. You just can't stop it. So what role do you play in trying to help your team as a quarterback?
Well, you got to run the ball, and they tried to run the ball, and they did a good job. Joe Mixon had a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there is no recipe for Aaron Donald. I've seen great ones go up against him and double team him, and he is that much quicker, that much more powerful. And what you don't realize about Aaron is how short he is. And all that does is people want to say, I want the 6'5", 320-pound guy. But I don't. I want the 5'11", the guy that can get underneath your pads. Most offensive linemen are a little bit stiffer than defensive linemen and don't have that ability to get low and sink their hips. Well, Aaron doesn't have to sink his hips. He comes off the ball with so much power and leverage that I don't care if you got pro bowlers up front. It really doesn't matter if you're double teaming, if you're slide protecting and trying to wash him down. He finds a way, and they do such a good job by putting him every once in a while on the same side of the field with Von Miller, putting him outside and looping him and running all kinds of games where he's not just bull rushing upfield. He's running around the offensive tackle and getting an edge. He's just that good. He's that dominant. And again, I don't think we see him retiring. I think he's posturing for a new contract, which looks well-deserved.
We had Tony Baselli on. He's going into the Hall of Fame, and he said, I hated playing against those shorter guys. They had leverage on me. And, and Baselli's 6'7", and he said, that the guy who's 6 feet, 5'11", those are the guys. I brought up John Randall, like these guys that are just, here they come. They're not tall, but they just have that leverage.
Yeah, I mean, Warren Sapp was the same. Warren Sapp wasn't 6'5", 340. He played with great leverage. He played with great power. Geno Atkins, a great Bengal defensive tackle that didn't get the credit he deserved. He was a phenomenal player. He was really built very similar to Aaron Donald. Maybe didn't have quite the same power, but the same quickness. He was 6 foot, maybe standing on a book. I mean, maybe he was 6'1", but probably below 6 foot. But that leverage, it doesn't matter how long your arms are at tackle or guard or center. If you can get underneath an offensive lineman's shoulder pads, and Aaron does it with one arm. So, I mean, you see him grabbing guys with one arm, putting in somebody's chest and just deboing them out of the way. So there's just a rare combination of speed and power that Aaron has that maybe we haven't seen since John Randall.
Did you meet anybody interesting in Los Angeles?
I didn't meet anybody out of the ordinary, but I was in and out as quick as possible. It was an honor to finally come and sit in your studio, your makeshift studio. That was great there. But that traffic and just the chaos of the Super Bowl, I was literally driving home thinking, I can't believe I lived here for 4 years in college, and I'm so glad I'm out right now. Because I was going 12 miles at one point, and it took me an hour and 45 minutes to move 12 miles in the car.
I went from Marina Del Rey to downtown. It took me 90 minutes, and it's 12 and a half miles. Like I could have gone to law school, I think. If I commuted in Los Angeles, I probably could get a law degree in maybe a year's time of just sitting in traffic.
Yeah, what's all this talk about work from home? Nobody's working from home. Everybody's on the damn highways and freeways, and I expect it to. What was crazy though is I did do a trip in the middle of the quarantine, the 14-day lockdown, and I drove from San Diego to Santa Barbara, and I was going 80 miles an hour up the 405 through Century City, past Griffiths Observatory, around on highways and on parts of freeways that I'd never gone faster than 10 miles an hour, and there was nobody on the roads. It was a really eerie ghost town feel.
We had Coach O on. Did he recruit you?
He didn't recruit me, but he was the defensive line coach at USC when I was there, and I was scared to death of the guy. All he talked about was sacking me. All he talked about was it'd be March, and we're in the weight room working out, and all of a sudden I'd hear this noise behind me, and he'd come up, boy, I'm gonna come and get you, boy. And I turned around, and Coach O was in a tank top, dripping sweat, just got off the bench press, talking about sacking me. So that guy scared the hell out of me.
He said that he would bring recruits down to Manhattan Beach, and then he would say, "See that house? That's Kobe's. See that house? That's Denzel." He goes, "I didn't know if it was their houses, but I told that to the recruits."
No chance. The stories I want from Eddie O was what was going on at LSU. How did he get? How were some of those recruiting situations going? How did he get some of the talent down there? Because nobody bats an eye what's going on in Baton Rouge. Everybody in Baton Rouge is an LSU fan. You don't have to be as worried about all the little rules and tidbits of the recruiting laws. So I want to know some of those LSU stories.
Well, we brought up Texas A&M. I go, Jimbo Fisher's all upset because his guys aren't getting the credit for recruiting all these kids. And he started laughing because I said, that's oil money there. I mean, come on. And now it's above board. You're allowed to, I can give you whatever I want. You like on the open market, what do you think you'd be worth coming out of high school?
I don't even know what it is right now. I hate
$1 million.
Yeah, who
At
knows?
least $1 million.
But he's the hands down the best recruiting coordinator, the best recruiter I've been around. He's relentless. He's always watching film. He would pull up things on his laptop of some grainy video he had of some kid in South Florida. And I'm like, Coach, you can't even see this kid. And he's like, I know. But he had all the stats, all the numbers. He knew the mom and dad. Or like, he was relentless in his pursuit in recruiting. It was truly amazing.
But he told us a story. He was trying to recruit Adrian Peterson to USC. And Adrian's dad is in prison in Oklahoma. He tried to get him transferred to a Los Angeles prison so he could watch his son play football. That was, that's why Adrian stayed at Oklahoma. And Coach O goes, I was competing. Got to compete. That's all I was trying to do, compete. I can't imagine you go back to school and you go, hey, I got Adrian Peterson, but his dad's got to be transferred to L.A. County Jail.
Oh, the strings that had to be pulled. I'll tell you what happened with that probably, though, is Adrian Peterson's dad was like, you're going to transfer me to L.A. County? No, thank you. I'll stay here. Things are a little more cushy maybe in Oklahoma than L.A. County prison.
It was great seeing you and your son, and thanks again, buddy.
Thanks, Dan.
That's Carson Palmer, his weekly appearance brought to you by Level Select CBD. Looking for next level relief? Visit levelselectcbd.com.